So a big part of what Blizzard has been promoting with the War Within is the fact that this is Warcraft for everyone, especially when it comes to what is traditionally being considered the end game, which is the gear grind, the transmog grind, the rep grind, and everything else. The introduction of Warbands was a big move towards having everything be account based as opposed to character based. And then with the things like follower dungeons, story raids, the delves, and all these ways that we can allow everyone to participate in 100% of the story and 100% of the gear grind by doing it in their own way. They are just giving players more agency, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, there's a video that they just released called Raids, Dungeons, PvP, and Delves, and it's all about the fact that in-game is for everyone with the War Within, as opposed to it just only being over here for this elite few. And there's still going to be mythical and heroic and all the things for the people who want to pursue that top tier of challenge and gear rating and everything else. But for the rest of the people who play, folks like me, people like the folks in our guild, people like my nephew, my brother, people who play casually, people who only play once in a blue moon like my wife, there are lots and lots of options. So let's go ahead and check this video out and see what they have to say about the War Within. Creepy spider lady.
Welcome to a special edition of Wowcast, and thank you so much for joining us. Launch is right around the corner, and today we are joined by a few incredible guests to share how dungeons, raids, and PvP has evolved, as well as new
I forgot
features
PvP.
like delves
I don't do
and
PvP,
warbands.
so.
Please introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Laura Sardinia. I'm lead UX designer in the WoW team.
Hey, I'm Morgan Day, one of the associate game directors on World of Warcraft.
And I'm John Mark Hempel. I'm a lead gameplay engineer on World of Warcraft.
How has the team been approaching what's waiting for players at max level for the War Within?
As we've been talking about, the content that players will be experiencing once they reach the end game, there's really been three main pillars we've been focusing on. The first is variety. We want to make sure that there's all kinds of activities for you to do, whether it be in the outdoor world or with some of our new features like delves that are really going to add some new variety for those players. Additionally, we really want to focus on progression and giving players new challenges to try to overcome in the end game. And finally, the story and making sure that that narrative is front and center. Now, whether that's tied into some of these features and some of the content that we built there, or maybe it's focused on the end game campaign that is going to be built out as players progress as well. Something that I think is going to be really transformative and I'm excited about for the War Within is one of our major features, Warbands.
Warbands,
if you aren't
baby.
familiar, this is a feature that really ties all your characters together. And really, this is our opportunity to make sure that we're really respecting the time of the player behind the keyboard and not constantly asking you to,
I got to pause that here. We have had multiple discussions going back probably 5 or 6 years now on the Mondays and MMORPG show and other podcasts we've done over the years. The one thing that has kept me from going back and playing a lot of the old school MMORPGs or even wanting to spend a lot of time in them anymore, and one of the reasons I have not been appreciative of or interested in a lot of these old school MMOs that are in development is they don't respect my time. I don't want corpse runs. I don't want any of that old school level loss or any of that kind of stuff because it doesn't respect my time as a human being. So games that respect my time get my subscription and get my money. That is a huge, huge win to hear them say that.
Maybe re-earn something on one character that you've already earned on another one. That's all changing with the War Within, which is really exciting.
I'm excited about
Mark,
Warbands.
can you tell us more about the significant undertakings that Warbands is about?
Yeah, it's no easy task to reimagine in a modern context what we've done over the past 20 years. I think, Morgan, at BlizzCon, you called this several features in a trench coat.
Yeah.
And it's very true. In a nutshell, it's really a philosophical shift in how we approach the game. Instead of being from a character focus, we're taking a step back and approaching it more from what the players accomplished over the entire time that they've played the game. Historically, we've added on pieces to individual systems from the engineering side to support features going into expansions. But if we could wave a magic wand and go back 20 years ago, knowing where we're headed today, likely we would have organized those things very differently from an engineering perspective.
Yeah, and I really feel like this is easily one of the largest undertakings that our engineering team has had to develop for an expansion. We always used to look at updates to future patches where like, let's make this a little bit easier for your alt to catch up or earn some progression there, where now that is something that we're really architecting from the forefront and really beginning the conversation with that.
I think when it's all said and done, every engineering sub-team is going to have touched this feature.
So what value?
Consequently, that also means expect lots and lots and lots of patching, because it's one thing to run this through test, it's one thing to run this through alpha, it's one thing to run this through beta, and it's another thing entirely to roll it out to the live servers and have things like Warband banks not working when the pre-patch went live. That kind of stuff is going to happen, and I would just urge players to be patient, to be kind and considerate, to understand the monumental undertaking that this is. I have only ever worked on the indie scale. The largest team that I've worked with has been about 25 people on an MMORPG, and even that has so many working parts that it is an impossibility to have it go right, even though you want it to go right every single time. There's always going to be things that crop up, edge cases that people don't consider or that don't get considered, and when you start throwing millions and millions and millions of players into the mix, shit's going to break. Be patient.
Do warbands bring?
It's all about being able to transfer stuff between your characters. If you have items that you want to send from one character to the other, you just put it in the Warband.
Warbands are brilliant,
If you
guys.
have
We've been
currency that you
stockpiling
want to
gear.
send from one character to the other,
My
you can just
mage is
grab it
coming out of
directly from all the
Panda
characters that
Remix
are on your
soon. He's
account.
already got
Or
like
if you're a
7
druid
pieces.
and you're going through one of the old raids and you get a piece of plate gear, your warrior can just equip it.
Yeah, one of the things I love about it is the shared renown, right? Like there's so much reputation that I'm
shared
gaining
rep is
across my
huge.
Especially
Especially
that
for
will all be
crafting.
combined and consolidated.
Getting my crafting
on one
recipes on
account-wide
all my
reputation
alts.
there. There's a lot of fun stuff that also enables when it comes to like trying to find more variety in the way I approach the game. For instance, I was leveling I think my second character on the beta recently, and I made sure to go out and turn Warband questing on so that I saw all the quests that I already completed. It's a little bit less opaque, so it's kind of transparent, and that way like, okay, I've done that quest on one of my other characters, so I can kind of cherry pick all the reputation from quests that I haven't completed yet. Something else
That's
when
a
it
cool
comes to,
filter.
maybe gearing that new character, there's actually a new type of item called Warbound Until Equipped, or WOO. This is a new item that will drop in all kinds of endgame content, including things like Mythic Plus and
I'm just waiting for
Raids,
somebody to make the
where
Ric
these
Flair
will be
meme
bonus
for this.
drops, where they'll drop a slightly lower item level where you might have earned that reward, and then you can put that in your bank or send it to one of your alts, and actually once you equip it on one of your characters, then it will bind to that character. So the fact that it binds to the warband means we can be really generous with that gear as we're dropping for alts.
I imagine as part of this overhaul that it's led to some unique challenges with the UI.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. UI revamp continues, and Warbands was a great opportunity for us to revamp the character select. Last time we did a big entry screen update was during Shadowlands. So with Warbands, we did a whole big user experience revamp there. We kept the right side list, but now you can drag and drop much easier your characters, and we have a favorite section there, which is really cool because they're all cross-helm characters that you can have. So you don't need to be back and forth choosing characters. They're all gonna be there for you, very, very easy. And also the tooltips are all new. Now you just mouse over and it's all there for you. So pretty great improvements overall. And also the new bank for your Warband characters. So a lot of good improvements that we wanted to make sure it feels natural to players and it just feels great. That's what a good UI should be.
New reagent bank
that's
too,
what we're
baby.
looking for.
There's a lot of functionality out of that too. Like you can craft straight out of your Warband bank. So you can just dump all that stuff in your Warband bank, and one of your other characters who might be able to use that profession stuff will then be able to access it much more quickly. You don't have to mail it around, and it's really looking to streamline a lot of those experiences.
For Mythic Plus runners or dungeons, any kind of activity that requires a group, we also revamped that left panel, the little ear pane that you push it out.
Yeah, this is already live in pre-patch, by the way.
Markers much easier. You can also assign different folks in your group to do so, which before wasn't that easy. And also you can change very easily as well the difficulty of the instance.
One of the other things I love that we added is hubs, right? So on the main map, there's often, as you are progressing in the end game, there's all kinds of content that might be really consolidated in one area, and sometimes it's like, oh, there's so much stuff here, and it makes the map feel like it might have a little bit of clutter on it. So we now have a way to kind of consolidate some of that.
The hubs, as Morgan was explaining, when you get in the War Within,
Oh,
you're gonna
that's
see this
cool.
castle city icon that we're gonna have in each zone. And Dornagal is the biggest one. When you click on it, you can see the city map. And one of the technologies
And the
that
rep
we
for
wanna
the whole
add,
region.
the hub gonna prioritize for you what is the most important content for you to do. Of course, you can choose to do something else, but we wanna clean up the surroundings of hubs and main cities. So that's the kind of tech that we're looking into UI as well, and we want to evolve and get players' feedback. Also for the end game, we have a new type of quest that's called meta quests, but those are end game important repeatable quests, and then they are the classic exclamation mark, above the NPC heads, but it's blue because it reminds of the old dailies, but you're gonna have spikes around it, so that's like, I should check this out. Yeah, so the hub when there's something available as a meta quest for that week, the hub will show that to players, so that's something that you should do. If you don't have too much time, you probably should prioritize those because they give very, very good end-game rewards. So that's the kind of technology that UI is trying to help players.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
You might be coming back, or you're veteran players, or you just want to, do the easiest thing for the week, and that's going to be out there on the map for you, so you don't have to go back to the icon soup.
Are there any extra quality of life improvements to the UI?
Sure, I've seen a lot of the community very happy about the search bars, so we keep adding those. With Warbands, we have a search bar there as well. In Dragonfly, we had the search in the options menu. Professions,
yeah, the search
of course,
is huge.
If you're searching for something specific, bags, we added that in Dragonfly, and the talents. But now, the spellbook is getting a whole
I love the new
revamp,
spellbook.
and it's so good to have a search bar there.
Yes,
the spellbook
I
is
agree.
beautiful now.
Where's
you
that
can
spell?
have 2 pages, and that way you don't have to paginate as much. But if you really prefer one pane, there is an icon at the top, which is the collapse one. It comes back to the original classic size.
I didn't know that.
So we know some players really love that, and we want to make sure
I
that
hadn't checked
everyone
that
is
out
happy with the new spellbook. Having the time to do all that stuff makes us so happy, because we want to keep the classic WoW look, even though it looks modern, but it still feel WoW, and that's really important for us.
Morgan, earlier you mentioned you want to empower players to play the way they want to play. How is that going to be approached in the new feature Delves?
Yeah, so like we've discussed, Delves are really bite-sized content, really targeted on those players who love progression in the outdoor world and maybe aren't so excited about going into group content.
Also
or
because
queue
these are
content.
like
Something that
15,
they
20
give us
minutes is what I've
feedback on
heard.
is that they really wish that there was a way for these to be a bit more difficult and maybe give them a bit of a challenge too. Delves, while the rewards might end at tier 8, so that the item level that you're getting stops there, the difficulty tier goes to 11. And when you reach that difficulty, there will be a hard mode version of Zekfir, which for people who might be familiar with some of those solo challenges like the Mage Tower of the past, this will be a new solo challenge for players to really, try to tackle over time. And we imagine this is something that will take quite a bit of effort and, progression
Less than you
to
think.
get to the point
It's
where you'll be
always
able to
less than
defeat
you think.
Zekfir at that difficulty. And waiting for you, if you're able to do that, is a really awesome, unique, kind of voided out version.
I cannot wait to be able to pimp my ride here with the Delve mount that we're getting. This concept of this when they've shared screenshots out is amazing.
Of that customizable Delve mount that you're going to be rewarded with
The
very
void
early on in
pimped
your Delve
version, that's
progression.
awesome.
Can you talk about the different varieties of Delves?
Yeah, so with Delves, there's 13 Delves in total, and something that we really wanted to focus on was to make sure that each Delve had multiple variants, right? So while there's 12 Delves that you'll experience and be sent to, a couple in each zone, every time you zone in, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just some small tweaks here and there, like, the spawning changed a little bit, or maybe there's some traps that look a little bit different. The actual objectives are changing. Sometimes the way you traverse through the Delve completely changes. Maybe you're going to start at the end of the Delve this time and work your way backwards. So we wanted to make sure that these different variants were really distinct with each new Delve. And we also wanted to make sure that like I said earlier, with progression to be a large part of this. So there's a couple different aspects of that. For one, the Great Vault, which is something that a lot of our raid and PvP and Mythic Plus players are familiar with, is going to get an outdoor row with the War Within. So the loot that comes
let's pause. Complete 3 Delves or world activities, complete 6 Delves or world activities, complete 12 Delves. So this is going to allow you to grind in-game gear by doing Delves and world activities, not just dungeons and raids. That's a huge component of allowing players full agency.
Delves, we wanted to make sure that while it was bite-sized content, that doesn't mean it can't be really rewarding, right? So if you're able to, work your way up and defeat level 8, which is where the loot kind of caps out at, your Great Vault will actually reward you with items that are higher item level than you would get out of like a Mythic plus 10 end of run chest. So it's really, really good loot.
Yeah, it's really
and
rewarding.
we want to make sure that you're using that, gear that you're in along the way to.
Now, I know some people are going to get triggered right now and say solo players should not be allowed to get the same kind of gear. I hear the argument, but you also have to understand that it's not just about effort. Time is an important factor, and players putting in time is something that should be rewarded. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. So being able to do both is a good thing. Again, it's all about player agency and allowing more players to have fun the way they want to have fun, because ultimately that brings more people in to subscribe, and that's what makes this an everlasting game.
To work through the different delve tiers and finally, take the fight to Zekvir, and by extension Xalatath as well, which also gets us into feeling like delves should be a big part of our endgame story as well, and making sure that they're paying into this narrative of Xalatath and all of our epic heroes that we're experiencing along the way. Something else that we added in the UI for delves is, there's now a whole tab that exists for delves that will exist down with the adventure journal, where you can see Mythic Plus and see your seasonal journey there. Now when you go to the delves tab, you can find the Great Vault from there.
Sweet.
You can also see Bran, who's your companion. You can change his spec and see kind of the progression there. So lots of fun.
Reminds me
UI
of Star Wars: The Old
additions and
Republic.
improvements that have made delves that
So
much
it's in
more fun.
reverse this time.
The team has
They're
also
taking
made
inspiration from
significant changes
SWTOR
to the Mythic
instead
Plus
of in
dungeons.
reverse.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so actually, not only is Mythic Plus getting some changes, but also the core progression of dungeons is shifted quite a bit. So if
Ooh,
you've
that
been
looks
playing
good.
Dragonflight Season 4, you might have seen that Mythic 0 has actually gotten quite the facelift. Something that we have noticed in the past is Mythic 0 was great for like 2 weeks of an expansion, and then nobody really needed to do it anymore because they had just progressed into Mythic Plus. So with The War Within, a Mythic 0 will be the equivalent of what, if you haven't played since Shadowlands, Mythic 10 might have been. So it's quite difficult. And
It is
will be equally as rewarding.
much
but,
more challenging,
we wanted
yeah.
to capture that audience of people who loved that feeling of the mega dungeons where, there's still progression, but also there's no timer, right? So if that was something that
Getting rid of the
maybe
timer
put
was
you
a
off
big
from
thing.
Mythic Plus,
That's
this
the only
is
reason
something
I'm
that
even
you can
interested
still
in it
do
now,
with your
because with the
friends,
timer,
and,
I said,
hey, you
no,
can run
I don't
AFK
want
if
to
you
do
need
it.
to in the middle of these. But for Mythic Plus itself, we really took a huge step back and wanted to do a major affix refresh. We have gone through multiple iterations of that on the beta. We got a lot of feedback from our first iteration of it and have really pivoted significantly since then.
It was kind of neat because we had some players that said, we really like the direction of these affixes, these I don't know about, and then other players that felt the exact opposite. I'm not sure about these, but I really like this direction. And really what it helped us crystallize was we had multiple groups of players that wanted different challenges out of the same Mythic Plus system.
Player agency.
Historically, affixes have been a one-size-fits-all approach to challenge and variety. But it was kind of a cool moment. Morgan came to the gameplay engineering team and was like, hey, we got this feedback. We have this idea for making affixes target different level ranges
look at
rather
that
than applying to the
screen, man.
entirety of Mythic Plus. And the design solution ended up being pretty elegant for engineering to implement. It was like this beautiful confluence of events where we were able to turn this around within, 2 weeks or something like that, and get the full revamped system back on the beta for players to test.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see kind of that all come together so quickly. So, what players I've seen now and what will be going live with The War Within Season 1 is a version where Xalatath actually plays a major role in the affixes, from the beginning up until level 12. And it's very much one of the goals we had to make sure that the story plays a part in all of our endgame content. So we really wanted to kind of achieve that by having her kind of show up in your Mythic Plus dungeon.
Not gonna
and
lie, she's
maybe
kinda
throw some
hot.
spells at you and mess with you.
We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft this year, and if you're coming back from a break or if you're a completely new player, just learning the dungeons can be daunting on top of affixes and things like that. So this sort of granular way that affixes apply challenges to the dungeons allows players to
Also, the fact that you can do them on follower dungeon mode now and learn them first, do the story by yourself. You're not going to get great rewards, but then you can go do it with groups, allows you to then learn it, get better at it, learn it better with a group, learn it better until you're ready to step into that mythic.
engage with them in the way that they want to be challenged.
Something that we added in Dragonflight, which is the follower dungeons,
they just
are great
mentioned
for
it.
that because you can have NPC companions, which are not real players, playing with you through
It's a
the
great
dungeon.
system.
And let's say you just changed to a new spec, you want to be a healer now, and I really want to try that first before really going to a dungeon with new players.
We know that players in dungeons often are afraid of trying out new specs. And with hero talents, there's different flavors of new combat for people to try out. And follower dungeons provide a way for you to just go in and feel it out and not be too concerned about how you're impacting
It's just a
other
story.
people.
It's like Star Wars: Old
Approachability
Republic.
has been
Going in
mentioned
with
a
your
few times. How are we
companions.
applying that to PvP?
Yeah, there's actually a new feature that I am personally going to play quite a bit, where you're going to be able to experience essentially rated battlegrounds. It's called Rated Battleground Blitz, which is a smaller number of players, and you'll be able to earn conquest and all the awesome rated PvP rewards while playing battlegrounds. Because we know there's a ton of people who love battlegrounds, but the jump into arenas sometimes might be a little bit scary. That is a much more smaller experience, and each little mistake counts for a lot when you're in an arena. Where in a battleground, there's a lot more going on. Usually they last longer, there's objectives. So we really are excited about that new feature. I know I have done a ton of, I know the community calls them YOLO RBGs, where you can just do RBGs, don't worry about voice chat, you just kind of go in and play. I always love running into those, so having this feature will kind of take that place for me. So I'll be able to earn my conquest early on in the season. I know we mentioned the Great Vault quite a bit earlier when we were discussing this. We actually got a lot of feedback from our PvP players that they don't love having to have the Great Vault be such a big part of their itemization and gearing journey. Not only does it add some potential randomization, right? Like maybe first week of the season you got a weapon and I don't, and that kind of can create some imbalance there. But also, like we're talking about accessibility,
I need
it can
coffee,
also
guys.
cause problems where maybe you're a couple weeks into the season and you just now want to get into PvP, but there's no catch up on the Great Vault, so you can feel like you're permanently behind on PvP, and it's maybe the barrier to entry is a little too high for you to get into that. So not having that in the Great Vault actually solves a lot of problems for us, giving players more agency in how they're rewarded, and also we have much stronger catch-up on things like our conquest currency for PvP players. So we think that will be
Just
a
more
big
options.
step
I don't
forward for
personally
those-
play
for that
PvP,
audience,
but
and
it's great to have
hopefully,
more
inspire some
options
people
and
to
better ways
check
to
out
play.
PvP in the War Within.
Raiding is an integral part of endgame.
Oh, yeah, we're
How
ready.
is the team approaching raids this tier?
This is interesting. So for those of you who are following along, we have our guild on Moonguard. I've published our schedule elsewhere, but we raid on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central. I stream those raids here on YouTube as well as over on Twitch in the multi-streams. We are going to be kicking off the raids in mid-October is our current schedule. We might shift that a couple of weeks in either direction, but we're giving people a chance to level up their first character through the War Within and then turn around and create their Earthen as well. And then we're going to be rolling into the raids. So if you're into raiding and you want to watch raiding, keep an eye out for that. Also, if you want to join us on Moonguard, all you got to do is reach out in Discord. We have a World of Warcraft section in my private Discord. You can post an app and we will let you know when recruitment is available. We do have spaces open from time to time. Let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah, so Nerebar Palace is going to be an epic experience. Nerubians galore in there. And
Can't wait.
One of the cool new features that we're introducing with War Within is to play through the raid, or at least experience the ending with Queen Ansarak solo. So we wanted to make sure that for people who were really engaged in that story at the end game, but maybe didn't want to go into queued content or don't have a whole group to go into the raid with, they'll still be able to see that epic finale. Something else that I think is really fun, there's
won't
a
get
lot
the
of
best rewards,
variety
but
in
that's okay.
player skill across all of our player types in the game, and we have a lot of difficulties for them. But even within a single raid, there can be a lot of progression that you're experiencing. And with Dragonflight, we added a new item upgrade system where you could upgrade some of your gear. But some players also found that they might not be able to quite get over that hurdle on one of maybe the end boss or something that comes as the penultimate boss.
Furic, man.
So we're adding a new quest that will unlock about a month into the War Within.
Okay.
Every week you'll get a little bit more powerful. It's kind of reminiscent of like Hellscream's war song back in Icecrown Citadel, but you'll have to kind of earn your way through that progression. So not only is there awesome gear to be earned as you progress through the raid, but we wanted to make sure that for people who might take a little bit longer, there's some
That'll be
more
us.
progression along with just the gear.
That buff's applied throughout your warband, right? It's not just on the character.
Yeah, that's another really fun thing. Again, like that was something that maybe would have just been applied to a single character, but
That's really
in
cool,
War
so you
Within,
can
that
bring
buff is
whichever
across
alt
the
you
whole
want.
Warbands.
That's cool.
While we are talking about raids, I would love to bring it up the self-highlight option, which I'm a huge fan. You can highlight yourself and persist that.
Oh,
but
that's
now
amazing.
you can even have an icon on your head that nobody can take from you. So that is awesome. You know, for players,
Find
I'm
yourself on the
included, and I
screen.
cannot find myself in the whole chaos of a raid boss or even Mythic Plus. There is also another option that's called Show Silhouette when Obscured. If you have that on, there is a silhouette about of your character between that pillar. Let's say it's a pillar, so you
Oh,
see your
that's
character
cool.
there.
I
It
I always
says,
call those like the flag boss or the tree boss, where it's like,
Yes.
the flag is in my camera. That's really cool, Laura, and I love that. And you know,
That is
not only
cool.
those cool options, but there's so much more to explore in the War Within, and I'm really excited for our players to come on this journey with us. Both players who have been with us all through Dragonflight, as well as players who might be returning.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this look into endgame content, and we look forward to seeing you in Kazalgar.
Well, we will be rolling in. The 26th is the official date. I do have early access. I have the Epic Edition pre-ordered, as do many people in our guild. So I will be starting my adventure on the 22nd, heading into the War Within, which is pretty soon. This is coming out on the 14th, which means in like 8 days. So in about a week, we're going to be playing the War Within, and I hope you're here for the journey. The World of Warcraft playlist is down below. My schedule for playing World of Warcraft is Wednesday nights and Saturday nights from 6 p.m. Central onwards. I also play, we do our raids at 8 p.m. Central on Saturday nights on Moonguard, and I will also be playing this as the main stream game during the daytime streams at 11 a.m. Central here and on Twitch for the days of the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and I believe the 26th as well, before we move over to having the day streams be Star Wars Outlaws, because that's kicking off on the 27th with my early access. But in the meantime, my primary nights to play World of Warcraft are Wednesdays and Saturdays from 6 p.m. Central onwards. Hopefully we'll see you there. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. Happy gaming.